everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am one of your hosts, Zachary Koch, and today with me
the
is
other co-host, always here, Matteo Guthrie.
Yes, in his home studio.
In my studio. This is just how I live. So it's like I had to move like a couple envelopes to the right. I've been a young professional working in the creative realm for the past few years.
Yeah,
since college, right? And I've been a professional writer. Right now, I'm in the luxury automotive and marketing technology space. So
I'm a filmmaker, videographer. Right now, I run my own photography and videography wedding company. And so that's what I've been spending most of my time doing as of late. But I have experience with commercial work, local commercial work, advertising, and music videos, funnily enough. Yeah. Got to throw that in there.
Yeah, also, you got to throw
it's
the
a little bit more fun.
Plug in
Yeah.
there. You know, as young creative professionals, we're kind of in the between amateur. We've had our experience. We've been making films together 6-7 years now at this point, but we're not quite. We don't have Hollywood producers yet. Call me up.
Yeah, if one of you guys is a Hollywood producer,
go ahead and ring me up. I've got plenty of scripts to sell you.
You should see what we can do with $1 million, considering what we can do with
$1,000.
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. A shoestring.
Most of our films are
shoestring.
budget, which is what you have to do.
Strive creatively.
Yeah, just gonna wait around until you win the lottery or something.
I mean, that was
Ideally.
my retirement plan, but here we are. We put together this podcast really because we felt like there wasn't a space to discuss this level of filmmaking. It always feels like there are the people that are talking about young filmmaking from a very studio-centric level, and then people talking about, again, the no-budget amateur kind of film school style filmmaking, both of which are great places to come from and have so much knowledge to share. But kind of in this limbo that we're in, it's a little tougher, and so I felt that it would be a good place to discuss.
No, 100%. And I personally have been wanting, like they say, to make the type of thing that you want to see, and this is like I want to see a couple guys that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, that are just trying to make films as often as possible, that are really passionate about it. But while it's nice to hear the success stories, we got to hear the journey stories as well.
In the middle of our journey, this week's topics are
gear, which is
the perfect
something
setup.
I'm really excited about.
And finding a willing crew.
Yeah, both. There's a lot to.
Yeah,
there's a lot there.
So why don't we jump in?
Yeah.
Do we want to start with the last one first?
We'll start with the gear one.
You're so excited for the gear.
So there's like a lot of these does gear really matter videos out there, and it's really silly because it's just a bad question to begin with.
You do need a camera to make a film.
Like, good luck filming a dialogue scene without a mic.
I've done it.
Yeah. We've done it with text
it.
instead of
text on screen.
That's fun.
Which is great, but can be trite. So
yeah, a little pretentious.
Talk to me about your specific opinions on gear, because I know you have a lot.
Well, it's 100% necessary. I mean, and I don't think that's very controversial. I mean, it's how we make anything at all. Like, you need a computer to edit. You need a camera to capture the images. You need a microphone or a recorder to capture the audio, like what we've got now. You wouldn't be able to see us or hear us if we didn't have gear, and that would make for a very boring podcast. That being said, I think the specifics of the gear that you're using doesn't really matter. So whether you're using a Rode wireless mic or a DJI wireless mic, a Panasonic full-frame camera or a Sony full-frame camera, I will put my hand up for both of those, and you can figure out which one it is. But spoiler alert, doesn't really change this thing that we've got going on. We're, which brand of camera it is, it's gonna pretty much look the same.
I'm a little more extreme on the gear doesn't matter. Obviously, gear matters. You need a camera. We're filming this on a camera. We're recording this on a mic. But I do feel like, and this is a thing across all sorts of spheres. You talk about cars. You talk about mountain climbing. You talk about anything that requires even a smidgen of gear. Art supplies, for example, and people will get, I would say, sometimes apoplectic about what the right gear is. Specifically for filmmaking, and part of this is that I've been a no-budget filmmaker for so long, but I find that the iPhone is my perfect Super 8. I find that I've had more fun shooting on a like high 8 tape camera.
Well, frankly, so have
So
I.
have you. I've had more fun shooting on those and recording on crappy mics with bad sound quality, and obviously crappy cameras with bad image quality. And sometimes those constraints help me really achieve my creative goals. Sometimes they actually elevate my creative goals, and I feel that I'm more accomplished because of them. Sometimes, frankly, they are a hindrance, but I find that it doesn't really matter as long as I put out a product.
Well, I think if you use like more budget conscious gear, or just, your phone, for example, or a crappy mic, it kind of lowers the pressure a little bit.
It does, yeah.
And I can see a lot of benefit to that.
We do a lot of quick and dirty filmmaking where it's, it's like fast and cheap and just do, Nike slogan, just do it. And that's put out some of our best results. But as part of that, I'm of the opinion that the camera resolution doesn't matter so much as what you're actually filming. And this is partially because I'm a writer first. Do I like to direct? Do I like to shoot things? Do I like to record audio? Like, yes, I love that. But like as a writer, it's really I'm always content focused.
Yeah. Well, I will say that for us being in the narrative filmmaking scene, there's actually a much lower barrier for entry as far as what you can get away with using.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, like, as you are very well aware of, I buy and sell cameras way too often, and I'm getting help. I am talking to someone about it, and
there have been weeks where I'll come into pre-production meetings and Zach will have a full rig and he's like, look what just came in. This is our camera, right? Yeah. I'll come back the next week, pre-production, right? We haven't even fully figured out shoot locations yet, but we have the camera and we're set and we're ready to do test footage. And then he's got a completely different setup. And I'm like, promise me you won't sell this. And he goes, I promise. And I'll come back the next week, completely different form and function setup. It'll go Blackmagic Pocket Cinema to what is it? Like a GX5, was it?
GH5.
GH5. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So part of it too is I want to experiment with different cameras because I know that they can change the way that you approach making films. So for example, our last film was shot on Super 8. And not Super 8.
High 8.
High 8.
I wish it were Super 8.
That would have been cool. But something about having this camcorder with a neck strap and just being able to rest my hands on it while it's hanging from my neck, and then having the flexibility of just grabbing it, flipping the screen around. The form factor was perfect. The battery life was incredible. It takes a big, giant Sony NPF battery. That just kind of changed the way that I approached that film. And I hate to admit it, but I think the tool that we use can sometimes contextualize the way that we approach the craft.
That is very true.
And so that's something that I've been seeking. Every time I buy a new setup, I'm thinking maybe this can accomplish something different for me than the last setup. However, if I'm completely honest with myself, 50% of the time, the reason I change camera setups is because I'm procrastinating. Because it's a lot harder to just go make something right now than to sit and make excuses like I don't have the right gear for it, or it would be slightly better if it was with this camera setup with these lenses or whatever. So a lot of it's procrastination, but there is something to be said about having the right tool for the right job. And within the narrative filmmaking world, you just need something that you can hit record on that records. But with wedding work, commercial work, there are very specific demands that your camera kind of has to have. Doesn't matter that it has internal NDs, doesn't matter that it has SDI output. There's just these little differences that can change the workflow tremendously. And then there's the client optics side. So you think maybe if you have a bigger camera, you'll impress your client.
Can I shoot
more.
this on a red, etc.
Exactly. So, is part of it unhealthy? 100%.
And obviously, for example, my current computer setup to edit on is not great.
2016
MacBook 2016 Pro? MacBook Pro, which is fine for browsing the web and for doing anything else, but for rendering video, it starts to act like it wants to catch on fire. And it's it's not great. Is that something that I'm using to work still? Yes. I'm still editing on it. I'm still recording podcast episodes on it. I'm still processing audio. You know, I'm using it, and it is it's the best editing setup because it's the one I'm actively using right now, and therefore it's better than waiting around for an upgrade. That said, the workflow is definitely better when I can render clips instantly on a brand new computer, and eventually I will upgrade from it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
But there's another element to this that we haven't talked about yet.
So element 2.
There's the specifics of like, okay, what are you using for sound capture? What are you using for image capture? How are you supporting the camera on sticks? What type of sticks are you using, or what brand of sticks are you using? Are you using a electronic stabilizer, or are you using weighted, you know, a Steadicam kind of thing? Those differences don't really matter as much.
No, not to gear.
However, when it comes to investing in gear for the first time and like choosing what things you invest in the right order,
I'm the worst person to ask for this.
and then picking like which things you upgrade first and which things you upgrade second. That you're going to get an interesting response out of me about like what I think you should buy first.
All right, so if I were, let's just say I lost all my filmmaking equipment in a freak tornado, and I got a low budget lump sum from the insurance company to replace them with, what is your top 5 things I should buy first?
Well, you probably already know if you've gone through the effort of buying a whole, you know, set of filmmaking tools already.
Let's say if you're like starting.
You're starting out.
Or I'm not sure where I want to go from here. I'm not sure, like I haven't bought equipment in forever because I just got a video high 8 camera.
Yeah.
And I've been using a flat rock as my tripod. So.
Yeah. So we got to fix we got to support that camera.
Okay.
A good tripod. I've had this tripod for 5 years. It is not fancy. It is a fluid head, has very few features. Shot so many projects on it because you know what? It supports my camera. I can do pans. I can do tilts. It doesn't get particularly low. I do wish it got a little lower, maybe a little higher occasionally, but just get a good tripod because I started out using those like Amazon Basics tripods, just like bottom of the barrel, just like the first tripod that you find when going to Walmart.
$19.
Yes, literally. The wind will literally blow it over and blow your camera onto the ground.
Freak tornado.
Yeah. Well, even just a subtle breeze is enough to just ruin your shooting day. Getting like a heavy duty tripod that you can trust your camera on, that's like the first thing you buy. Absolutely. And then even, we didn't mention lighting. I keep talking about video and audio, but good lighting is going to be the thing that makes the
points at the light.
Yes. You can see this, right?
You can see us.
Good lighting is going to make the biggest difference with your image quality, but there's good lighting all around you all the time. You just need to know how to use it. So
some of my favorite projects we've worked on have been almost fully practically lit.
The first thing I would invest in lighting wise is like a little kicker light, little credit card size light, like a Aperture MC, or there's even cheaper ones. The ones I have built-in magnets, so you can just stick them anywhere. You can stick them on the ceiling, stick them in the wall.
You can stick them on the ceiling, then realize it's too high to get up there without the step stool that was originally used that's now back in the truck, and then have a jumping contest.
Or try to kick off the wall and... But yeah, like a little kicker light is like massively helpful. And I have more of them now, but for a while I only had one Aperture MC, which is like a little credit card size light. I've lit entire music videos with that one light, which is amazing. And the output isn't like incredible, but if you know how to use it,
it gets the job done.
If you know how to use it, even with a camera that doesn't have good low light performance, like the GH5 that I was shooting a lot of these music videos on, you could do a lot. You can do a lot with just like a little small light. So buy a good tripod. I'd spend $150 minimum on a good tripod. No, minimum.
Okay.
Like, good luck. Good luck finding a decent one for less than that.
No, my flat rock comment myself.
Don't do that.
This is why I'm a writer.
Yes. Well, you can get one of those little tabletop tripods if you must, and your camera's small enough. But yeah, that's I would buy those two things first and then go straight into audio.
So far we have camera, obviously.
Yeah.
Light.
Well, no, we haven't even gotten to camera.
We haven't got to camera.
Yeah,
okay.
Because that's like kind of pretty low on the list. It's like really like stabilization, audio, then light. Get a little tiny light, but don't spend too much on it right away. Then camera. Because in the meantime, you can buy like a $5 high 8 camera, or use an old camcorder that your parents have lying around.
Or just go to a thrift store.
Yeah, thrift store, shoot on VHS, and then your phone is amazing. You just use your phone. You lose a lot. You lack a lot of control with the phone, But there's a lot of videos on YouTube that were shot on
I've
phones
shot
that I didn't tell the difference.
I saw Monkey Man in theaters recently, the Dev Patel project, and at certain parts, because of it was only shot on $10 million, which considering the budgets that
like
we've shot on is like that, you know, that'll set you up for life.
Yeah.
But for films of that caliber, it's definitely no budget. And because of that, some days they just couldn't afford the camera rental and literally shot on the director, Dev Patel, his like actual phone for some sections, like a phone and a GoPro, just like, and you can't really tell. So
and you saw it in theaters too.
Yeah, and I saw it in
so
theaters.
You would be
this
able to
isn't
tell
just
the
on my
difference.
laptop.
Yeah.
There were definitely like bits where I could tell it was shot on a different camera, but I figured it was like, for example, like a more action cam focused, like close-up camera, not an actual iPhone.
I've definitely shot a lot of projects on smartphones. My favorite phone for that was the Samsung Galaxy S9 because it didn't have a lot of post-processing. Like the images looked really natural and usable. Obviously, you lose a lot of depth of field, which is fine, and the detail isn't as high as a proper camera with a bigger sensor. It's collecting more light, it's collecting more information.
Yeah,
but the images were very usable and very pretty. And so I've never had too much of an issue shooting on phones. My iPhones, I've had a couple of them. They always overprocess the image. So it wasn't until the iPhone 15 Pro that I'm like actually very much down to shoot on iPhones.
Okay.
Because you can shoot in Apple log now. So you can shoot in a log profile. It's 10-bit, so you have lots of color information. And there's no post-processing. So you get images that look like they were shot on mirrorless cameras. And that's incredible. Again, obviously depth of field, lacking, detail, whatever, but it's like kind of doesn't matter. Like it's so good.
I think we are getting away from, there was a period, especially, I think 2011 onwards, really. Well, maybe 2015 onwards, where people really got into the iPhone, shot on iPhone, right? That was like a whole campaign, actually. And people were shooting like whole short films on an iPhone, and
some features too.
Yeah, like features and short films, and they were shooting like legitimate projects, and you couldn't quite criticize these projects because at the end of the day, it was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah,
and
to be fair, you could tell.
Yeah, you could tell
a lot back then.
But it was definitely like, ooh, they shot it on an iPhone. So you're like, well, it was bad. And it's like, well, but it was shot on an iPhone. What do you expect? This is impressive that they just got this off the ground.
Using it as a cop, I mean, that's a bit of a cop
out.
Yeah,
it is a bit of a
you're
cop
hiding
out.
behind that.
Yeah, it's like you are hiding behind that. And I feel like now we have started to like move away from that just because enough people have shot on iPhone that it's like, well, that other film that was perfectly good was shot on iPhone. So what's your problem?
Right.
There was a film called Annie's Main.
Annie's Man?
Yeah, Annie's Man, I think. But it's shot on like 16 millimeters, so it's great.
Yeah,
but it's
gorgeous.
definitely like, it's got that grittier feel that 40 years ago wouldn't be so gorgeous. It would be like, why is it, this is document, 16 millimeter was like the documentary format up to a certain point, and now just everybody's using it because it's Super 16 is better than Super 8, and it's
like
cheaper than 35 millimeters. So like now it's the good, like I want film, but I don't want to look like it was shot on like a potato Super 8 camera.
Super 16 is such a happy medium.
It's a great medium, but like
I'd rather Super 16 over Super 35.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't.
But my point being that, had you shot this 20 years ago, people would have even 20 years ago, 40 years ago, I think 20 years ago, people would have been like, oh, well, it is,
It's just whatever.
Yeah, but it still had a bit of that grit that obviously the filmmakers leaned into, but like it would have captivated me either way.
Right.
And we're back.
And we are back. Recording limits are fun. Gear does matter.
Gear does. For our next subject, this is the fun one, finding willing crew.
That's a hard one.
Not that we're unprofessional, but we certainly aren't to Hollywood level of funding where we can just pay everybody as we need. And finding crew and cast that wants to show up for the love of the art and not just because there's a paycheck in it is difficult because they also...
Their time's valuable.
Yeah, their time's valuable, and they could be using this to hang out with their family. They could be using this to clean their house.
And very likely they're not as passionate as you, although sometimes they are.
Sometimes they are, but it's I put out a project. I write this. I tease Zach for like 2 weeks that I'm writing a project and he can't see it. Then I drop it in his
sucks.
lap. He gets into it. He gives me my feedback that I will then try to defend myself from.
As you do.
As the editing process goes. And then we both are really invested in this project and we really like it. And then we have to shoot it. And then we need camera. And obviously we wear a lot of these hats, but we need people to help out. Mm-hmm. And not just actors, though actors are definitely people we need, but also a sound guy, somebody to run slate, crafty.
Things you'll learn at film school when you don't go.
Things you learn at film school when you don't go. You need helpers. And I love to have my friends on set, and I have an entourage of people while Zach runs a very bare set, so it's very funny to see that mesh.
I hate asking for favors.
Which is tough when the entire like film process we have to ask for favors. So finding willing crews is difficult. It's
my answer to this problem, because I want to be respectful of people's time and I don't like asking for favors if I don't have to. And I'm very much like, I know that not everyone's going to want to make this film as much as I want to make it, except for maybe you and a very passionate actor.
Yeah.
And
which we've had fantastic actors.
It's just the other people, like, how do you convince someone to run slate for free? And the answer is you make friends with Roz, who loves running slate.
Yeah, and this has been my answer, which is whenever I'm shooting a film, I will often have 2 or 3 people that don't really need to be there. They will be friends. Hey, do you want to come and help out? Do you want to just come hang out? And they are passionate about being with me and just like the artistic process. And so they will show up and they will often bring an enthusiasm to it that doesn't have, per
There's
se.
no pressure for them.
Yeah, there's no pressure for them. It's not like, hey, I need you to commit to this very arduous role. It's like, do you want to come hang out? And then whenever I need somebody to run slate, I'll be like, Roz, can you help me out? Can you run slate? Whenever I need somebody to run down to the convenience store and use my card to buy snacks for everybody because we ran out of water and Gatorade and chips. Like there's somebody there that can do that for me who isn't like necessarily locked into the role, but is definitely there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because unlike a director of photography and unlike the actors and the director, like those people, they're getting creatively fulfilled from the project. Like, I directed this film. I starred in this film.
Yeah.
I shot this film.
I wrote this film. I produced this film.
Now, think about it from the perspective of an unpaid sound guy. Now, there's a lot of people that do love running sound, but there are a lot fewer and farther between. And when you're asking someone who maybe that's not like their thing.
Yeah.
It's a tough sell.
And with sound guys, especially, it's like, you're kind of getting yelled at. You're just like, hey,
yeah, literally.
Hey, from across the room, hey, can you please get closer? And it's not.
You have like you can't see the screen.
Yeah.
You're just.
Nobody's like, I'm really here to see the sound guy's project. You're here to see the writer's project, the producer's project, kind of. The director's project for sure. The actor's projects for sure.
To be fair, recording audio is an art.
Yeah, it's an art.
There's a way to do it really well. There's a way to not do it as well. Mixing the audio in post and sound design is all like very crucial and very important. But just calling up a friend saying, hey, can you run sound for me all day? It's just a hard sell, because
it's a thankless task from the prospect of I'm not getting paid for this, which is why the best sound people often are paid for this. And it's, as young creatives basically making this on the side as a part-time auteur, as a part-time director, you yourself aren't getting paid for this. Frankly, you're going into the negatives because you're actually paying to make this film that most likely isn't going to get picked up and given wide distribution,
and very likely not even get accepted into most of the festivals you submit to.
Frankly, not even get views on YouTube. So why, as somebody who isn't emotionally tied to the project, would you do it?
Yeah. So your solution for that is to just have people that are along for the ride and just kind of put them in roles as necessary.
Long as they're willing. I'm not taking advantage of anybody, but it's like, for example, with Roz, it was like, hey, do you want to come on set for a couple days? And she was like, yeah. And she came on set, she really enjoyed doing slate, and came back on like days. She's like, do you need help on extra days that, I wasn't like, contracting her per se for. And she just decided to like come and help because she enjoyed being part of the creative process.
Yeah.
She just
It's
it
worth,
didn't feel like an obligation.
exactly. It's worth mentioning. Like the reason why that works is because there's not as much pressure for that respective role that they're fulfilling.
I now feel invested in the project versus before they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a second level to this, which is I've really had to build not a formal network,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had to build sort of a network of people that are also invested into arts the way I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I've done it organically and through, movie nights with people and just like discussions and like kind of going out there and finding community with these people,
Mm-hmm.
which is hard when you're not just like, oh, I'm going to go to like a networking event for young filmmakers or whatever. But like finding friends in the area that are into that
Mm-hmm.
and do that same sort of thing and have the kind of base layer of people who are into that, you can grow creatively together. And do you want to come on set? I've gotten hey, can you help me with this short film I'm working on? And I'll look, heck yeah, I'll come.
Mm-hmm.
I'll help. I'll at least give you some edits on the script if you want to send it my way.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, that's how we initially became like creative partners.
Yeah, that's true.
You brought me on as a script super.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we like moved forward and started making more and more projects together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you helped me out on Brothers Bunker, and
You helped me on as DP on Colleagues on a Trial Basis.
right, yeah. So
And
we
just,
kind of,
it pushed from there.
be willing to help other people too is kind of what I'm hearing you say.
There is definitely like, you have to build that network, and you can't do it with the intent of like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You have to do it from like a place of, if like I'm giving and I'm putting myself out there.
For sure.
And
Yeah,
then
don't have
building
any
it.
expectations for it.
Yeah, I feel it's more rewarding that way to
Mhm.
be part of a movement. Where if you're working on a professional film set, it's, oh yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy, and then you network by literally working together.
Mhm.
And on the hard other side of it, when you're an amateur, for example, you're in college. Oh, I need help working on a student film. You have like friends down in the cafeteria
yeah.
that can help you, they're down because they're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are as young professionals. Everybody we know has a job. Everybody we know has,
Mm-hmm.
like, do I really want to spend 4 hours tonight on some film set shivering in the
Yes.
cold while it snows?
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. But like, or could I stay inside, stay safe and warm, and watch, this Netflix show I've been meaning to watch?
For sure.
And so being able to build your network and like have friends and have people who are willing to just pitch in a little bit here and there
Mhm.
is often the way to augment your skeleton crew.
Yeah.
In ways that I feel it's been my strategy.
No, I completely agree. I mean, really our strategy.
Yeah, our strategies, seeing that we work together basically.
We both produce a lot of these films. On the other side of this, I think there's ways that you can, especially when you're starting out, streamline your production process to not require as many people, which I'm a big fan of. So like, I don't know, is this a good time to like just throw out some ideas that can maybe help people?
Yeah, I think so.
So, wireless mics are a godsend. And if you can throw a Rode Wireless Go onto your camera, throw the other part of it on a boom pole,
Mm-hmm.
you can monitor your audio with, the sound from the camera. It's all synced up, and you can operate boom just like that. But it's getting
If you're
so
creative,
easy.
you can work around it. And I think that's obviously that it requires you to do a little more footwork than somebody who has an entire, sound department and grips and gaffers and all
maybe
of that.
maybe your dialogue scenes are a little less complex, but that's just another restraint that you should work around.
They're not fun, but they at the same time can provide challenges that make you a better filmmaker.
Absolutely.
It builds character.
I hate that. But what's funny is as we've matured, our projects have gotten simpler.
That's true.
Brothers Bunker was like my first proper film.
You had a script supervisor. Nothing we've done since has had a script super.
Yeah, no, literally, except for maybe you as the writer being on set can kind of serve that role a little bit too.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. Like I had more crew for my first short film than I did for my last short film. My last short film was just me and you, dude.
Yeah, it was just us. I was also cast in it.
And it's our best piece of work yet, according to Matteo.
It's my favorite so far. And we've put out some good stuff. That's not hyperbole.
And this film it didn't have dialogue. We didn't record any sound while we were shooting, which also simplifies the process. I shot it, I edited it, I put all the sounds together in post, and most of the lighting was minimal, I would say.
We actually had some
We had some cool. The lighting was cool.
We had solid like lighting setups. We like set up, take down. But as we've grown as filmmakers, we've had the experience to know what we can do on a shoestring and what we can't.
Goes back to writing within your constraints.
For example, as I'm writing within my constraints. I'll write minimal cast films for us because I know that we simply do not have the logistical pipeline to put together like, a Magnolia style like cast of 120.
Even though I know you would love to do that.
I would love to do that. My favorite.
Most of your old scripts have
most of my old
so
scripts
many
have
roles.
So many fun new characters.
It used to drive me crazy.
Oh yeah, and he's like, we just can't. I'm like, well, could we double cast?
Maybe.
It's tough, and like working with it. This is kind of, I guess, the third level is we are on top of like finding people to like be your willing crew. Just right around needing a crew.
Right.
But like for actors, we will go to who we know can figure out this part. Eventually I have to write scripts that accentuate our actors' best qualities and can maybe sidestep the fact that all our actors are unpaid, so we're not going to get Daniel Day-Lewis levels of performances. Writing more doable roles is great, but also writing around like the actual actor. So like write to their strengths as well, but also like keep the role where it needs to be, but also write the film so that the actor doesn't have to work so hard to do so.
Right. I have a question for you if you're ready for it.
Yeah, shoot.
How do you feel about starring in your own films?
I hate it.
It's sometimes necessary.
I'm not a fan. I have starred in so many of our productions that I think especially with Does God Love Robots, I'm like, I should really stop considering myself not to be an actor because I've been an actor for so much.
So like in summary, like, do favors for other people with, no expectation.
Yeah.
But do favors, try to coerce your friends into not convincing them that the role that you want them to do is hard. But I think that's like keeping it fun is a big part of it and not putting too much pressure on the project. Like, dude, I was a little, I was awful as a like young director, like a really young director, like high school. Like I took my project so seriously and I look back and I'm just so embarrassed at.
I think that's part of the filmmaking. You always have to take your project so seriously.
Right. But like you contrast that with like, I don't know, Bleeding Heart Routine, Does God Love Robots, where we're just having a blast.
The film sets were so fun for that. Very informal. And
I've changed my mindset. Like you can have fun and be serious at the same time. And I used to just think like, maybe I took inspiration from Stanley Kubrick in the wrong ways.
Never do that.
But I was like, I'm an artist and I care about this. I want it to be good. And you guys aren't taking it as seriously as me. And it's like, well, of course, dude. Like you called in a bunch of favors. But yeah, like keeping it fun on set is like a big.
At the end of the day, that's like that's kind of the third, I guess, fourth thing here is like your crew doesn't have to be there. You didn't write them into contracts. You didn't say I'm paying you, and if you don't get to like say, well, I'm not going to pay you anymore if you don't do this. Like these people are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And so
you got to keep that in mind.
Keeping the set fun where you can have a friend just hanging out on set because that's fun. Oh yeah, like I'm gonna graduate from the animal handler who's like make sure the cat gets fed treats to doing slate, and then from slate into sound or whatever. However you have that, like if you keep the set fun, nobody's yelling at anybody in anger. That's not professional in like. In professional spaces, people will do that, but that's diva behavior. That's not.
Diva was the word I was looking for. I used to be a big diva.
Diva behavior where you're like yelling at your crew or, your DP or, throwing tantrums. Like that's not fun on a set you get paid on, but like that's not tenable on a set that nobody gets paid on.
Well, this has been fun. I wish that there was something like this, when I was learning filmmaking. I mean, I'm still on that journey very much, but hopefully this is something like you're getting value out of just hearing two creatives just talk about like insights that they've had about the creative process. And it's been really fun.
Until next time, I'm Matteo Guthrie.
And I'm Zachary Koch.
Signing off.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.